I talked about this role within an organization that guides every step of the product cycle, right? From ideating what he even wants his filters to look like, be, and different filters to even be on Snapchat's camera page, all the way to launching, right? How he gets it out to like the high school audience that is the primary persona for Snapchat, and even to like adults, and really like, you know, get them hooked onto these filters, right? So clearly like we're out of order, but we'll just go with it over here. So we have product management being at the intersection of three different disciplines. You realize just from like how I said they work with designers and engineers, there's a lot going on. You're not just like, you know, doing business, right? You're also really thinking in terms of customer. So customer experience or user experience is what a lot of the designers in the industry focus on these days. They don't just focus on the icons or like the color palette or just small things like that. They focus on making sure that when someone's using Snapchat filters, it's seamless for them. It's so easy that they don't have to toggle or click different buttons. They just swipe right, swipe right, swipe right, and you see a different filter, a different filter, a different filter. Who thought of that? That's what the designer thought of. Or maybe the PM and the designer collaborated on that, and the designer really designed that experience, mocked it up in Figma, Sketch, InVision, Photoshop, or I mean, not Photoshop, can't really do that. But, you know, like a lot of these, like, you know, very popular design tools, and the mock-ups were made, and it was shown to like internal stakeholders, whether it be like adjacent teams or the manager of the Snapchat PM, filters PM, and they're scrolling through these mock-ups and be like, wow, it's really easy to access filters. You have the green light. You can continue working on this feature. And then they hand it off to technology. So like the software engineers. And this is like, these are the people that actually code it out, right? They essentially build out the backend for how you can even see like that AR, like augmented reality filter on someone's face, like when they're taking like a selfie, or on like a bunch of things when you're on the other, you know, normal camera mode, stuff like that. So they actually allow it to be implemented. And they do actually the majority of the work in something like this, where it's highly kind of like code heavy and backend heavy, versus there's other products that are more design heavy. In our example, this is something that's like a little more backend heavy, right? And then what's this business? This business is actually what the product manager is seen as doing like a lot of. The product manager, of course, like they own this, they're just told to make Snapchat filters, sometimes without too much context. So what do they have to do? They have to do like a lot of competitive analysis, right? They have to check out like the whole filter kind of market, and like the landscape of how it's looking right now, whether it's even like worth going into. Basically a lot of strategizing, and like strategizing falls under the business umbrella, right? And when you combine all three of those disciplines together, you basically get product management, because the product manager can't be clueless about design and just fully ask their designer to do everything. They have to know a little bit and be able to bridge that gap, right? They can't be clueless about like technology, because when their engineers ask them, or when their engineers ask them, can I just take 4 to 5 weeks to build this out? And let's say it's just like making a small icon, or clicking like send, and actually have that, you know, link with the email sending functionality, and it just like sends out like an email, for example. That's not something that takes 4 to 5 weeks, but you can be fooled if you're a PM that's not technical. So it's important to be a little bit technical if you're working on a, you know, a back-end heavy project, such as like Snapchat filters right here, right? And that's something that I just wanted to mention. The product managers have to have at least a little bit of an idea of what's going on in all three of these disciplines. You don't have to be an expert in it. That's what your team's for. That's what the software engineer is for. That's what the deep learning engineer is for. That's what the AR engineer is for, right? AR would be most relevant in this case for filters. And then there's the designer, right? They're really expert in designs and making the user experience good. If you can help them in it, that's a bonus. That's a plus. That means your discussions with them, when you're talking about how should these filters look, they're even more fruitful and useful when you know a little bit of design. So that's why if you're a product manager that knows a little bit from all three of these disciplines, you're going to be like a rock star product manager, and that's only going to help you out even more. So we're going to move on, and we have the customer. As you can see, I just pulled together this like this visual. It's just like a picture from Google Images that I got after searching customer is key or customer is king. Basically, what you can see here is these people, 4 people, are building straight up towards the customer. Building towards the customer and building for the customer are common terms that are thrown around in the world of product management. And what does that mean? So let's think about our Snapchat filters PM, right? Jeremy, who's tasked with building to Snapchat filters. He does a competitive analysis, realizes there's not too many competitors. It's awesome. It's also, he does a market analysis, really large market for this, very few competitors. We want to go straight into this and just start building it. Does he start building? No. Remember, customer is key. And in product management, a lot of people say the number one important thing is like building for your customers and making your customers like really delighted and happy. So keeping that in mind, Jeremy is like, before I just build something, I want to ask my customer what I should build. So what he does is he goes to a bunch of people in different age groups. But the main age group for Snapchat is like, let's say high schoolers, right? Or even like young college students. He interviews like 40 to 50 of them around, let's say, his college campus and local high schools around the college campus, right? And he realizes high schoolers are not down to click different buttons to go to different filters because that'll take such a long time. They want something that is super seamless, like a quick swipe. Then he gets the idea, oh wow, so you're not interested in doing anything or any more work than just swiping for filters? That's the max you're gonna do? And the high schooler's like, yes, that's the max we're gonna do. He's like, okay, thank you for the idea. I'm gonna build specifically for you, just as this picture shows right here. So he has that swipe in mind. And then let's say he has another question of like, I don't want to overwhelm you high schoolers, so I'll just keep maybe 2 to 3 filters to start with. The high schoolers tell him, no, that's not overwhelming. I'm down to have 10, 15, or even 20 filters. Then Jeremy gets the idea of, wow, I can actually, increase the number and just make it a lot of filters. Like they're fine with that. He gets that second idea and he has all these ideas that he's going to build just for the customer, right? And then let's say he's sampling his like 37th potential user and he interviews them and they say something like, honestly, I want a lot of filters, but I also want filters that are kind of like with the season, like, and with the current trends, right? If there's something like let's say like a push-up challenge that's like really, really viral, they want to filter for that, right? Or let's say there's something like 4th of July that's coming up. They want to have like a bunch of fireworks as a filter or like an American flag too, right? So that's what the third high schooler suggests. And Jeremy's like, wow, I have all this great feedback. I have bullet points 1, 2, and 3, right? Let me just build specifically for them. And because he has a pretty large sample size, he's not getting fooled by just 1 or 2 high schoolers that don't know what they're talking about, right? He's talking to a bunch of them. So there's a general kind of theme to what their feedback is. And he starts building just for them. And when he builds just for them, guess what? Guess who's going to be using the product? Not the VPs at Snapchat, not the lawyers at Snapchat, not his developers and designers that are making the product. The high schoolers that he literally talked to. So he knows his product's going to be, at least to some extent, well accepted and very successful. So we can move on to the product cycle here. I know I told you a little bit about this user research phase, which Jeremy asked 3 high schoolers on information for. But there's also something that comes behind that a bit before that, which is ideation, right? So before that, Jeremy was thinking of all the different possible ideas. So he knew what questions to ask the users. He was like, what do filters even mean? Are filters something that are only like 1/2 of the screen or the whole screen? Where are they gonna be? So then you can start thinking of like, oh, I can have like a bunny ears filter. I can have like a angry face filter. I can have like a just American flag in the background, or like a vote for, Biden 2020 or something like that, right? And then he's thinking of where they would be on the screen. He has all the information he needs to know. Then he starts interviewing the high scores. And then he gets all that feedback, those 3 bullet points, right? Of like, they just want to swipe right, left, nothing more than that. And the next one, which is they're down to have like 15 to 20 filters. So he's like, check, I got that feedback. That's great. And the last one of those filters can actually be like based on themes and they should be changing so we don't get bored as high schoolers, right? So he got all this valuable stuff from user research. And now he's like, okay, before anyone else comes and beats us to this market of filters, we need to quickly beat it. Our team at Snapchat needs to be very, very agile. So Jeremy then goes to his designer. Let's say his designer, her name is, let's say her name is Stephanie. Stephanie is like really good at design. She's like really quick, but she just needs to like know what to design. So Jeremy's like, okay, I got all this feedback from high schoolers. What a bad PM would do is like, I got this feedback from high schoolers. I know exactly what I'm doing because I did the user interviews with them and I'm the PM. Just listen to me. We want to make a 4th of July filter, and then we want to make a Christmas filter, and we just want to make a bunny ears filter, and that's it. Just like that's it. Then what would happen? You don't have Stephanie, the designer, does not have that much motivation because she's being told exactly what to do. Her input's not really valued, and also that's very condescending too, right? So what a good PM would do is, and this is a really good opportunity because Jeremy just did a bunch of user interviews with high schoolers. He says, hey, Stephanie, so this is all the feedback I have from these 3 high schoolers, from these 50 high schoolers, in the area. And I have these 3 important points that I got from them. Do you think we should listen to them in this way? Or how do you think we should like really visualize this into actually like, mock-ups in like Figma, like, which is your main design tool? Should we have them only on like one side of the screen, all over the screen? And they said we should focus on trends. You tell me, Stephanie, which trends do you really care about, and which upcoming holidays are there? Even though he knows that 4th of July is just right around the corner, he wants Stephanie to say that herself, right? Otherwise, he'll just suggest it. But he wants her to have a lot of input. And guess what? When your designer is telling you like, her thoughts, and when Stephanie's thoughts, a lot of them are correct, you want to be like, that's really correct. That's really correct. And now she's self-motivated and she'll get those mocks done very, very quickly. And Jeremy can quickly have this go to the next stage, which is develop and test. So Stephanie mocks it up. She essentially shows the Snapchat camera page is like a rectangle, and within the rectangle, she shows like bunny ear filter. She's like, do you like this, Jeremy? Jeremy's like, that's great. Just keep on making me more filters. And she has about 12 filters that you can swipe right. And it's all the feedback from the customer. It's perfect. So Jeremy's like, thank you so much, Stephanie. You did this so quickly too. Like, I could tell you're really passionate. Stephanie was like, I was really passionate because you really like give me a lot of say in this. And we had a really, really productive discussion. I'm really looking forward to moving forward with this product. So then Jeremy's like, that's awesome. Everyone's happy so far. Let me take all of her 15 mocks, right? You swipe right. And the mocks look like the actual thing, right? Except it's not actual because there's no code written. And then he takes that and then he gives it to the guys that write the code, right? He gives it to, let's say he gives it to Joe, right? Joe is like a really good augmented reality software engineer, right? And he basically has been working on Snapchat's platform for like a couple of years. He knows how to code things really quickly, but he needs to feel valued as well. Otherwise, he won't listen to his PM, Jeremy. So Jeremy's like, hey, look at all these 15 awesome filters that Stephanie made. Can you make all 15 of them? That would be awesome. But I mean, let me know if like some of them are not doable. I'd really love to hear your input. So now Jeremy and Joe are in a meeting, just like going back and forth. And Joe says, a couple of these filters are just really not possible. Bunny ears, that's static, that's possible. But there's some other filters that are just like doing like a lot of dynamic kind of, they have dynamic properties and they're really moving around the screen really fast. That's something that we have technical limitations for. We cannot build, that's not technically feasible. That'll take us months. That's something that's currently R&D right now. And no one's really made like, dynamic like things in the augmented reality space. That might come out next year. We can't build that, sorry. Jeremy can be like, no, I still want you to build it. That's what Stephanie made. That's what we decided. I want you to build it. That's a bad PM. Joe will get really like, demotivated and nothing good will come out of that product, right? But what Jeremy could be is like, Jeremy could be like, oh, thank you for letting me know. We don't have to work on that filter right now. That could be in like the next few versions. Don't worry about it, Joe. What are the ones that you can really tackle right now? He listens to what Joe can easily do and what's like a little bit of like a stretch, and he tries to like come to a compromise. Joe ends up building out those filters and they're working really well. He makes sure that like he covers all the edge cases. What if I do a filter and then actually go back and then go back to the original filter, and it won't break, right? And it'll break the first couple times because Joe really hasn't thought of the edge case. It's the PM's job. It's Jeremy's job to really think of all those edge cases, how these crazy high schoolers that are just doing things really quickly can be potentially breaking this feature of Snapchat filters. So Joe builds those, let's say 12 out of 15 filters are the ones that he can build. He can't build 3 of them right now. He builds 12 of them out, and half of them don't have like the edge cases accounted for. So they're just breaking when Jeremy's testing them. You should be testing your own product actually. My manager actually told me that you should be testing your product if you're a PM for at least 15 minutes every single day. If not, like, a lot of people test it for an hour, a lot of PMs. So Jeremy's like, testing these filters that Joe built. They're broken. He rewrites some kind of specs or instructions for Joe to make sure they're taken care of. And now he has 12 really good filters. So what happens throughout this entire time? This is something I forgot to mention, but Jeremy is actually going back to those high schoolers and be like, does this look good? Does this look good? Going to new high schoolers and be like, does this look good? Would you use this product? How would this make you interact with your friends differently if you could use this feature of Snapchat filters? And he's hearing stuff like, oh yeah, keep those 12, or honestly, take that one out and add this one. And he's like actively, relaying that information to Stephanie and Joe, and really incorporating their feedback as well. So what happens after that? Develop and test is done. They have 12 awesome filters that's tested for edge cases and it's tested for robustness and like high accuracy, etc. And then the manager of Jeremy is like, Jeremy, I told you to build this in 3 weeks. It's 2 weeks in and it's already looking amazing. We just need to get like all the hype going for this, right? So then, how Snapchat sometimes has like not a newsletter, but they have like when there's like a new update coming out, they kind of notify all their users. There's like a small little hover like modal, or even like maybe like a walkthrough of like, there's a new update coming. This is what's going to have. That's an example of marketing on like a very, very well-known, like multi-hundred million users kind of product, right? Getting people hyped for it on like a large scale. And then, so that's one mean. That's one means. A second means is like if let's say Snapchat had like a website a lot of people visited, snap.com, they could also just like give people a heads up there. They could even do like influencer marketing, which is something that Snapchat has done in the past, where they have a few influencers saying, "Oh, Snapchat just let me try this new feature of filters, and it's awesome." Every then all of like the, let's say 30 million plus people that follow Kim Kardashian that post that are going to be really hyped and really excited for that feature to come out. That's the marketing phase right there, right? Getting everyone really, really thinking about it. It's on the top of their mind. And then guess what? It's basically the word is out, and all they have to do is launch. Do they want to launch it to everyone? Is it strategic for them to launch it to everyone? What if out of those 12 filters, Joe forgot about like one of the edge cases on like 4 of the filters that like Jeremy also didn't catch? But the high scores that are using it really rapidly and quickly, they're going to figure out, they're going to find out, right? So what happens is they do A/B testing actually. And it's essentially like it's an isolated launch, like a limited launch, where out of all of the 100% of their audience, they only launch to 5%. Or sometimes even 1%, because like Snapchat has over 300 million plus users, like at one point. That's what they were at. And you wouldn't want to like, launch to sometimes even like 5% of that, right? It's a lot to have 15 million users not like that feature. So they launched like a small fraction, even like less than 1%. And they look at the metrics. And this is in the launching phase, just so everyone's clear. They look at the metrics for how the Snapchat filters are doing. They notice that high schoolers are using the filters a lot, but then they never use them again. That's something that could be like a really big red flag to Jeremy, right? But in this case, let's say because he did a lot of user research, he knows that high schoolers would enjoy it, and he's seeing that reflected in all of like the metrics, which is high schoolers use about 12 filters a day on average for like that 1% that he actually launched it to, right? 12 filters a day. He's like, wait, that's literally like a lot of uses, right? And especially the ones that are most used out of the 12, 10 of them are like the 4th of July filters, because that's popping right now. It's season for 4th of July. So he's like, wow, this is so successful. I'm going to now launch it to, instead of this 1%, we're going to expand to like 10% of the user base. And then he notices the trends are still there, right? Everyone's still using it a lot. And in fact, it jumped up from 12 average filter sends to, let's say 32 filter sends. He's like, wow, this is great. And by the way, every time he goes from 1% to 2% to like 10% launch, he's making sure to launch it not just to high schoolers, right? He's stratifying by or he's essentially diversifying by like many different factors, right? He's launching it to a small slice. When I say 1%, I mean within that 1%, there's middle-aged people, there's older people, there's people in college, and there's people in high school. Because let's say that 1%, he only picks 1% that are only high schoolers. That's not representative of everyone, right? So that's just what I mean when like Jeremy launches to 1% and then 5% and then 12%, right? And he realizes all 12% of people that are really using it a lot. 32 plus filters used every single day. This is so exciting. He goes to his manager, let's just roll it out all the way. His manager's like, this is beautiful. Let's roll it out quickly before someone else comes out with filters. They launch it. And now everyone uses it. And now they have more influencers like making it more and more hyped. And now Snapchat, all of a sudden, instead of having like 300 million users, let's say it has even 500 now, because filters is something that's like revolutionary. And that's a successful job of Jeremy, the filters product manager. So hopefully that was good. Hopefully that gave you like a good idea of what a product manager does. And before talking about how to break into product, I'd love to hear questions right here, because I know things may still be iffy for some people, but just excited to hear anyone's questions. Bahar, should I unmute everyone?
Yeah, also, if you have a question, please don't put it in the chat. You have to unmute yourself and ask. So at least somewhat personable. And if you can turn your camera on, go for it.
I have a question like about like either like the business side and I guess like the CS side, I guess like in product management, because I'm a business major.
Sure.
I just wanted to know like what you would value more in the sense of like product management. Like, is it more about like your knowledge of the technical side, or is it more, I guess, about your knowledge of the business side?
That's a good question. And by the way, what was your name?
I'm Kiwi.
Kiwi. Oh, nice to meet you. So I would say you're a business major and you're asking, is it more important to know like business or the technical side? I would say it's not about like knowing more of one. It's about not being clueless in any one of them, right? It's about like having like a little bit of knowledge in the strategy, right, of things, right, which is like a lot of the business of what PMs do, or a lot of like the competitive analysis, right, or a lot of like the different things that Jeremy did across the entire kind of like, you know, product life cycle, such as like also managing his team, having good communication skills, having good persuasion skills to really convince them. So it's really important to have that. And I think that since you're a business major, well, to be quite honest, like people that are highly technical, like we know the stereotype of like how some coders like don't have good communication skills. I think it's easier for a business major to just take a couple of coding classes, or specifically just like work with a few technologies that his team is working on right there, and than it is for someone that's like really not able to communicate well and suddenly expect them to take on the strategy for like a really wide and comprehensive scoping product. Well, and while I say that one is easier than another, I think both sides can easily do it. And you should make sure you're not clueless in any one of those three disciplines in that Venn diagram that I showed you, right? So that's very important. So I wouldn't say that one is more important than the other. It differs from project to project. Like, let me tell you something, Kiwi. Like, let's say you're on a product, like, let's say you're the product manager for Snapchat. Like they have like the whole maps feature where you can see where your friends are, right? And let's say that's such a long feature, it'll take months to make, but your manager tells you, I just want you to just straight up do market research and competitor analysis and stuff for the first couple months. Is that more tech or is that more business? That's way more business right there, right? So if you're in that part of the product cycle, business is more important. But when you're in the develop and test part, then tech is more important. So I would say that there's different parts of the product cycle, or even completely different products, where this is just a straight up hardcore technical product, hardcore business product, hardcore design product, right? Where those skills are inevitably, I'm going to be honest, it's way more useful to be a kind of designer, former designer, now turned PM, to be a PM of that design product, right? It differs on the product, but as long as you're open and willing to learn, you'll be chilling on every single product out there. There's nothing to worry about. Yeah.
All right, okay, thank you.
Yeah, great question, Kiwi. Anyone else have any questions? Okay. Yeah, please go for it.
Yeah, sorry. I had a quick question. So I'm a CS and statistics major, and I'm also minoring in business. And I'm actually pretty interested in product management, and I've been looking into it. And one question that I had was, what's the best way to break into product management and get started?
You're basically having a very respectful approach to telling me to go to the next slide. So let's do that. How to break into product. Thank you for that.